Hello and welcome. Today I'll be playing Orzhov Pestilence, a deck by Michael Kabira. Anyway, I believe he went top 4 in a more than 20 player tournament with this deck fairly recently. And all of his choices and inclusions make a lot of sense to me. Michael Kabira clearly knows what he's doing here when building this deck. 3 Bojuka Bogs, as well as more graveyard hit in the sideboard. Very much tuned towards the Gurmag, Angular, Tolarian, Surf, and metagame. Crossroads and Barrens helps versus burn decks, allows you to get up 2 removal spells before you die. Orzhov Basilica, Thraben Inspector, the Omen of the Dead, Kor Skyfisher loop really lets you get a lot of value later in the game. For those not familiar with this, Omen of the Dead is an enchantment with flash that lets you return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, which wouldn't normally be a great effect for 1 mana and a card, but because you can get back a Kor Skyfisher, which returns a permanent to your hand, return Omen of the Dead to your hand, and then get back another Kor Skyfisher, or whatever other creature you'd like, or wait for your Kor Skyfisher to die and then get it back, your Kor Skyfishers are all essentially immortal. Or it just becomes 3 mana to make a 2/3 with flying and get a creature back. Either way, very powerful. Because we're already playing for Kor Skyfisher, we include a lot of other nice enter the battlefield effects. Dawnbringer Cleric is just a lot of utility on 1 creature. Spare Supplies is some nice card draw. And Thraben Inspector makes clue tokens, which you can crack for some cards. When it comes to removal, we're playing 4 Cast Down, 3 Chainer's Edict. Because of how much Boggles we see in the Magic the Gathering online queue, I might reverse this order next time I play the deck, but we'll see how the deck stands up to Boggles. We do have our final Chainer's Edict in the sideboard, but I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to move 1 Cast Down to the sideboard and 1 Chainer's Edict to the main deck. We have 3 Castigates to deal with the combo decks that we've been seeing popping up in Legacy. Inspiring Overseer is quite powerful. It's a new card from Streets of New Capenna, although I suppose that's not that new anymore. A 2/1 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. So a little bit of life gain, a little bit of card draw, and a flying creature that's hard to block. It's quite good, and I think you'll see in the games that it can win you a lot of games. Just having 2 or 3 days out ends games fairly quickly. Suffocating Fumes and Pestilence are both our sweepers. Suffocating Fumes gives everything -1/-1, and Pestilence is a 4-mana enchantment that that you sacrifice if there's no creatures at the beginning of the next end step. Pestilence, you can pay a black to deal 1 damage to each creature in each player, which is a really powerful effect, and it's repeatable, so you can either burn someone out or clear the board. Unmake is our final removal spell, bringing us up to a total of 8 main deck, just straight up kill a thing removal spells. The upside of Unmake is its instant speed, unlike Chainer's Edict, and it can kill creatures that have protection from monocolored, protection from black, protection from white, or creatures that come back from the graveyard because of exiles, which is very relevant versus some very specific decks, such as our deck, where exiling a Kor Skyfisher would be much better than killing it. Guardian of the Guildpact is a protection from monocolored threat. Oftentimes, this is entirely impossible to kill. Decks like Burn or Is It Fairies really struggle with dealing with this card, and it allows us to take the Monarch back, take the Initiative back, or just swing for 2 over the course of a game over and over again. Mukotai Ambusher is a ninja rat, so you gotta do a little Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing here. Although I suppose is their sensei also a ninja? Now that's the question. Anyway. Artifact creature, rat ninja. You pay a colorless and a black. Well, you pay a generic mana and a black. Return unblocked attacker to your hand, and you can put this in tapped and attacking. So this is a repeatable source of life gain and a source of card advantage if you're bouncing something like a Kor Skyfisher, Dawnbringer Cleric, Thraben Inspector, Inspiring Overseer, etc. Thorn of the Black Rose, enter the battlefield, you become the Monarch. You can bounce this and whatnot, but really it's just there as a repeatable source of card advantage. And then I already talked about Pestilence being our other sweeper. Looking at the sideboard, we've got some hand hate, some removal, some sweepers, some artifact hate. For those pesky indestructible artifact lands, we went with Dust to Dust. Prismatic Strands protects us from certain combo decks. Kor Sanctifiers kills artifacts or enchantments. And then 3 Lone Missionaries to gain us some life, and a Dawnbringer Cleric to either gain us some life or to kill enchantments in graveyards. Alright, let's go into some games. Going into game 1, match One in the tournament practice lobby in Pauper with this Orzhov Pestilence list. This hand looks reasonably keepable. I have cast down as removal, some proactive plays. I'll keep it. Got lands and spells to cast with them, so nothing to complain about here. We'll see if cast down is enough to keep us alive, or if it's something like a turbo combo deck where we need to be faster than this with Castigates or more interaction. Basic Island Delver of Secrets. Alright, so probably, you know, this is some blue tempo deck. Probably mono blue. I think the mono blue deck's the ones most likely to play Delver. I think I just want to kill that Delver before they have a chance to protect it. And then if I can force them to use cantrips to find future threats, then they're much less mana efficient. The nice thing about Delver is it doesn't actively get them closer to something like a Tolarian Serpent, which is a lot scarier. Okay. It looks like they're holding up interaction. Could be Spellstar Sprite. Their interaction could be Counterspell. I don't really want to use my Dawnbringer Cleric right now. I'd rather use that to exile a Deep Analysis from the graveyard if they're on that sort of plan, or get them farther away from Tolarian Terror, I believe is the name of the card. I think Tolarian Servant is a different card. Anyway, I'll play my Spare Supplies. And if that resolves, there's Bojuka Bog. That's going to be useful to keep them off the Serpent. Now we'll go ahead and bounce the... Oh, they're considering in response to the bounce effect. I don't think it matters. This is the same as them considering on my end step. I'm just going to get my untapped land back. I don't think repeating the 1 life gain is relevant as having an untapped source next turn. Consider near guarantees that they're on a Serpent plan. Most decks would rather play something like Ponder or Preordain in that slot if they don't have an active reason for wanting things in their graveyard. Looks like they're just holding up interaction again. I don't really want to jam Guardian of the Guildpact directly into interaction, so I'm going to play out the Inspiring Overseer and see if they want to counter this. Blue decks struggle to remove permanents, so yeah, Force Spike. Alright, I could have played around that by playing the Swamp first, but I think maybe it was correct to play around Force Spike. I'm not sure how popular Force Spike is in Pauper. I don't have a massive amount of experience with the format. Spire Golem from the opponent, a classic card from mono blue decks. I have a cast down to deal with that though. They're still holding up counter magic, so the question becomes, do I cast down first so that if they counter it I can get a Kor Skyfisher in, or do I Kor Skyfisher first so if they counter that then I can guarantee my cast down? Kor Skyfisher blocks the Spire Golem, which means that if it's just Spire Golem as their only threat and they don't have, say, a Ninja, then I do think I would prefer the Kor Skyfisher in play. That being said, alright, well, I'll do this first. Play around for spikes and miscasts and whatnot. I expect hardcast counterspell out of them here. Just straight up 2 blue? Okay. Well, if it didn't counter that, then I don't think they'll counter this unless they have Force Spike in hand. And I don't want to use my Bog quite yet, so I will play the land first. I'll try and Bog them next turn. Tolarian Terror. I don't know if it's Tolarian Terror or Tolarian Serpent, but I believe it costs 6. It costs 3 less currently, so it costs 6 or 7 normally. So we'll see if they have it here. Okay, Brainstorm. And do you have a shuffle effect to go with that? Or... and they make their land drop again. Another Spire Golem. They're down to 2 cards in hand. Modern Age, sure. This implies to me that they might be playing things like foil, deep analysis, that sort of package to try and get more value out of looting, but maybe they're just playing the Modern Ages card selection. Well, they don't have 2 blue up. I'll try and get my Guardian in here, playing around 4 spike. Alright, now I can bog them. And we'll see. Hopefully this makes them struggle a bit more to get the Surf into play, or at least pay a bit more for it. And now I have the Thraben Inspector to make myself a treasure. They loot away an island with their Saga, and hit me for 2. I'm winning the race here. I both have more life and more damage per turn on board. I'm going to crack the clue instead of the spare supplies, because if I draw a Kor Skyfisher, I'd rather bounce the supplies. Just a tapped land. I'm going to go to combat here and see if they want to do anything like Vapor Stag my Spectre, although I don't know why they would. So my guess is I can just connect for 3 here. And there they go to 17. Play my tapped land, and now I have the choice between Dawnbringer Cleric or cracking the supplies. I think I'll bluff having some interaction here and crack the supplies on their bin step. I could have done both, but I don't think there's a huge advantage to having the Cleric in play here. I can destroy the Vector Glider, but I could do that now or next turn. Probably should have done the last turn. Didn't really think about the fact that Dawnbringer Cleric has a relevant second mode here as enchantment removal. Shoot, I misclicked. I meant to crack the spare supplies. Making a lot of misplays here. I should slow down a bit. Okay, Castigate, let's take a look at your hand. Castigate eats a counterspell. Do you have a second counterspell? No. Alright, get that out of here. And returning their own glider back to their hands to get more looting and prevent the destruction. That does make them lose a life, though. Alright, spare supplies into Prismatic. At this point, I think well, it's between 1 life and exiling their yard. I think exiling their yard is more relevant. Hit you for 3 and pass back. The Modern Age. This isn't modern, this is Pauper. Trying to trick me. We knew about that. They bounced it back to their hand. Okay, Spire Hill. They looted away Consider, which must have just been the worst card in their hand. Seems a bit strange. But considering they could have considered then looted. But maybe they've got a 2-mana play in their hand, like a counterspell that they want to use. Well, there's a Crossroads. I'm going to get rid of their graveyard now and force them to pay more if they do draw the Serpent. And I can scry with my Campus, if I so wish. Get in for my 2 damage. Protection from monocolored does not apply. This is not a monocolored permanent. But I don't think they've realized that. And as long as they don't realize that, I'm going to keep swinging with it. Spire Golem is not monocolored. It is 0 colored. And they can block with it. It would just they bounce off each other. So they're either playing around combat tricks or like a give all creatures -1/-1 or Pestilence or something, or they're genuinely just not aware that Spire Golems are not a monocolored permanent. Colorless is not a color. Delver, alright. My read here is that their last card in hand is Counterspell because they pitched their Thought Scour again here, and overall I'm not sure what else they would, like, why didn't they just Thought Scour themselves in response to the trigger? And, well, anyway, I'm not going to try and read too much into that. Maybe they just don't have as much any graveyard synergy and want to keep their cards in their library. Alright, well there's a Guardian in the Guildpact. They're going to counterspell it if I play it, but at the very least it gets the counterspell with their hand. Just in case their last card is not in fact a counterspell but a cantrip or something, I'm going to try and make them use it now. Okay, they go to 7. I will gain some more life here. And let's see if my Guardian resolves. I don't think it will. I think their last card in hand is Counterspell. My read was not correct. Their last card in hand was not a Counterspell. Their last card in hand is probably something better than Thought Scour, and yet something they did not play yet. So, I honestly don't know what their last card could be here. Two attacking creatures. Not going to block, just taking my damage in the air here. I could hit them for 4 on the swing back, then they hit me for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I hit them for 4 again and a win. So unless their last card in hand is a Vapor Snag or something, then I should be able to win this. Spare Supplies. That's a fairly good draw. I'll leave that on top. If I put that on the bottom, then it just is whatever card I would have drawn, so at the very least it cycles itself, and then I can draw an extra card off of it next turn, if I get a next turn. Which is not guaranteed. There we go. Kor Skyfisher. Perfect. I can use that to gain 2 more life with my Crossroads. First I'm going to go to combat and swing with these creatures. They go to 3, very honest of them. Let's see if my Skyfisher resolves. I'm probably just using it here to either bounce my Dawnbringer and kill this, or gain myself 2 life. Oh, they've decided that they see the writing on the wall here, and I'm ahead enough that they're willing to concede. Okay, versus Mono Blue Tempo. Fumes has some hits, but not a large amount. Castigate is pretty solid versus counter magic and stuff. We saw they were playing self-mill effects, so now Spellbomb might be good. Removal like Chainer's Edict is very likely to be good against a version that isn't very heavy on the fairies, and I didn't see any like fairies, Spellstar's Breath, and all that stuff, so I'm assuming they're a more slam like 2 or 3 big creatures version. Dawnbringer Cleric has some relevance, killing their enchantments, but they might just side their enchantments out. Lone Missionary has life gain, but I don't think it does enough to make it worth it. And then Prismatic Strands is both a combat trick and a fog effect, but enough cards in their deck are colorless, like their 4 Spire Golems are probably playing. And Suffocating Fumes, Pestilence picks off Delvers, but I don't know. I feel like forcing through a Pestilence is going to be hard versus their counter magic, and Delver is the only creature we saw that dies to this. I think I want the Castigate and the Chainer's Edict. I don't think I want Thorn versus all of their flyers. I don't think I want Suffocating Fumes. I don't think there's enough things that die to that. And then I think I can take out the... The thing is, Pestilence is quite good if I can stick it in play, but I'm a bit worried that they're just going to always have counter magic up. But I didn't see anything that really makes me want to bring in the spell bombs, and I guess I only saw that one enchantment card that they might even side out if they know I have clerics. So I could get down to like 2 Dawnbringer Clerics and up Pestilence. These out, these in. Does that make sense? I don't know, maybe Dawnbringer Cleric is just worse than Pestilence, maybe it's better. If I can get to a position where I can jam Pestilence into play and burn my opponent out or wipe their board, I think that's something to play towards. Only one land, and it is not a land that works by itself to do anything. You have to bounce itself if you only control it, so unfortunate, but we're going to 6 cards here. I think as 6 cards hands go, this one's fairly solid. I have Cleric or I have Cleric, pick it up with Ambusher or Skyfisher. I have the Omen of the Dead, Skyfisher Loop to get some value. I'll keep this. What is the worst card in this hand? It could be the Castigate, which doesn't really feel great when you're not trying to force through something at 3 or 4 mana. They can't counter the Ambusher if I'm ninjutsuing it in anyway. Could be Omen of the Dead, because one of my creatures died. It's just useless. Alright. I'll block up Omen of the Dead. There's 2 Omen of the decks in the... 2 Omen of the Deads in the deck. My opponent plays an island and passes back. No reason not to just play with my tapped lands here. Nothing to exile with the bog, nothing to benefit playing Secluded Steppe. And having access to black or white next turn is going to be nice. They decide to keep the card on top. Okay, presumably holding up counterspell here. Joke's on them, my hand is not very good, so I don't get to do very much about that. I'll just play my Steep and pass back. In-step Brainstorm, sculpting their hand a bit here. Filling their graveyard up with some instants and sorceries, maybe trying to get a large Serpent down quickly. The Serpent is hard to deal with until I have enough mana to cast down and pay for ward and play around counterspells. So I do need to be very careful about Bojuka Bogging them before they can get their Serpent in, which it looks like they might be able to do this turn. We'll see. They're thinking. After a bit of thought, they play a Delver of Secrets, still holding up counterspell, and then they pass. Okay. If I'm going to play anything, I'll want to do it before I play the bog, so that if they counter it, then I get that more value off the bog. I think I could just point a cast in a Delver, or I could Castigate and try and clear the way for that. I'm going to Castigate here and try and clear the way for Overseer or Cast Down or whatever else. And getting the information is useful if it does resolve. Okay, Force Spike, sure. Couldn't play around that anyway, but now I get a lot more value off of my bog. So the Thought Scourer and all of these aggressive cantrips are no longer in their graveyard, so they will not get a very cheap Serpent. At least not without putting some more work into it. flipping Delver. They did Brainstorm, so yeah. Flipped Revealing Counterspell. They brainstormed, so they were able to set that up. That was not a blind Delver flip. They knew what was on top. And playing the Modern Age. Do they have a basic island? Or are they not holding up Counterspell? Okay, they discard the Counterspell. This implies to me that they're a little stuck on mana. They did not make their land drop. I can Dawnbringer Cleric the Modern Age, playing around Force Spike, and then cast down the Insect, not playing around Force Spike. Well, we'll do this first. There's a bit of a pause here. Maybe they have Force Spike because of that pause. Maybe they're just bluffing. Doesn't really give us any information. Get that out of here. And I think the Skyfisher is more important than the Cast Down because it provides me with value and a blocker for Delver. So I'm going to try and bait out Force Spike or a similar effect here. Spell Pierce maybe. Vapor Snag their own Delver, okay. So that trades Cast Down for a Vapor Snag there. It's not card advantage or anything. And it untransforms their Delver. I much prefer that to getting Force Spiked. They did discard a Counterspell, so I don't know about their hand anymore. Alright, I'm going to go to combat, hit them for 1. I'm not going to be able to block the Delver if it flips, and I will always be able to block it if it doesn't flip, because I'm going to be playing some stuff out here. Go to damage. I don't want to ninjutsu quite yet here. Try and bait out counter magic here. And then if they don't counter it, I get 2 Skyfisher. Okay. Skyfisher should be safe now. Let's think here. They have 3 instants or sorceries in their graveyard. Tolarian Terror normally costs 7. So if they untapped and played a land, exactly, they could terror me here. And I wouldn't really have a way to deal with that. So I'm going to bounce my Bojuka Bog and re-exile their graveyard. I think that Tolarian Terror is one of the only ways I can use this game. And without a graveyard, it is extremely difficult to cast. Okay, Thought Scour. Tolarian Terror costs 2 less. Still not enough. There's still 2 mana short of casting it. Okay, I'll go to combat here, starting with the team. They didn't flip Delver. Well, they chose not to reveal off the Delver, presumably because they did not find an instant or sorcery off of it. They were flipping blind that time, though. Do I want 2 damage, or do I want 1 more damage, or is exiling the graveyard that important? I'm deciding here between which I want to ninjutsu. And I think exiling the graveyard is quite important here. And I don't have a way to do that unless I bring my Kor Skyfisher back and then rebuy Bojuka Bog. So I'm going to take this line here. Go to damage. Alright, they're done. Yeah, I think they saw the Kor Skyfisher re-Bojuka Bog line and didn't want to play past that. Overall, the deck felt pretty powerful in all 3 of those games. That match was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed playing it quite a bit. Hopefully, I get a chance to play this deck in League play and see how it fares in a bit more of a competitive setting. Thank you for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and leave a comment if you'd like to point out all the misplays I made. I always appreciate feedback, both about the editing, audio, and other pieces of the video, as well as about the gameplay. So let me know if you think I made a mistake in any of those things. Thank you for watching.